Okay, so it's a Friday, and what other way to start off a potentially great weekend? But here on the Joy Sports channel on Multi TV with me, Nathaniel Attoh, as I bring you sports today. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes. We look at everything, including the biggest highlights and the biggest headlines making the rounds ahead of a big weekend of sport. Well, there are major things happening in the Ghana Premier League, and of course, clubs have major issues going into the league. We'll be talking about all of those later on here. But one player who wants to make a return is, the man who emerged the most valuable player 2 seasons ago, Daniel Nii Adjei, who plays his football in Congo DR. He says that he would wish to make a return to the Ghana Premier League. What are his reasons? We get to listen to him. That interview is exclusive to Joy Sports on Multi TV. And obviously, we'll also be going into our match of the week in the English Premier League here on Joy Sports, which comes to you live tomorrow from this channel. So you better grab your digibox and have it fixed. Is Liverpool as they continue that revival. Remember, this season has gone well so far for Liverpool. And of course, the introduction of the man Luis Suarez is doing extra magic for them. And of course, we look ahead to some games this weekend. That big one, of course, between AC Milan and Juventus. Ghanaian interest there, Kevin Prince Boateng, Sule Ali Montari. And, of course, in the fold of Juventus is the man, Kwejua Samoa. Of course, later on, I'll also be telling you about how some players who've been invited for Coach Kwesi Appiah's squad for the Egypt game were unused in last night's round of Europa League matches. All of those here on the Joy Sports channel on Multi TV. So Daniel Nii Adjei, one-time most valuable player in the Ghana Premier League, says that he would wish to make a return. What are his reasons why? After playing for one of the richest clubs you can have on the African continent. He reveals this to Joy Sports. So you have to stay tuned and stay right here for all of those excerpts of that interview and more as well. So welcome to the show. In a bit, we'll be getting into what's in the newspapers, and we'll be looking at the big headlines as well. But remember, if you want to talk, you can get through to me on 1760 or get on my Facebook page. It's Nathaniel Attoh, Citizen Attoh. Just paste a comment on my wall on these and many other stories that we're going to bring you throughout the show. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's packed, and it's going to be exciting, definitely, as we always do. So thank you very much for keeping it right here. A round of commercials, as we always do, and in a bit, the newspapers come your way. All right, so let's get into the newspapers and let's get busy. Let's get talking as well. Remember, 1760 is the short code if you want to get talking. It's only 30 Ghana pesos. It won't scratch you at all. Let's take a look at the Graphic Sports newspaper, which has Sule Ali Montari and Kwejua Samoa. They will be clashing, of course, that game between AC Milan and Juve. A lot of nerves, a lot of suspense, but of course, those who take their chances at the end of the day will get to win it. Okay, Kotoko to blow away Inter Allies. The Tema Park is surely going to be an interesting place to be at this weekend as Kumasi Asante Kotoko, the defending league champions, play against Inter Allies, the newcomers who have not yet found their feet in the Ghana Premier League. And also we get on the lifestyle page, which has a profile of the man Jack Wilshere. Okay, so there we are. Arsenal's Jack Wilshere featured here. He's young, he's talented, and he's restless. It's interesting to know stuff like this, especially when, you play in a league that's very, very demanding and very, very... All right. Okay, so Mesut Ozil seems to be one of the biggest revelations and biggest gifts to Arsenal already. His assists are wonderful. He's scoring. Chews a lot of gum as well. So there we are. Mesut Ozil there. And, of course, a lot more action in the European leagues. Sergei David Gnabry is also featured. and the pull-out bit and the center spread of the Graphic Sports newspaper. So there we are. Arsenal surely looking good this season, and the Gunners are definitely living in good times. Let's go to what happened in the games on Wednesday. Some of them captured in pictures. Accra Hartsville versus Azakas, and Hearts fans are up in arms against Teteluga, the goalkeeper, whom they think is not good enough. Eventually, Coach Philemon McCarthy goalkeeper Philemon McCarthy had to replace him in the last game, a decision which was rather interesting. Coaches listening to fans and acting, spontaneously to their demands. Okay, there we are. Jeria Kamenko, the defender, is still riding high in Turkey, and this is a story by George Ernest Asari. Remember that he plays for Ekahizespor in the Turkish top flight. A couple of Ghanaian players surely have also made it in Turkey. You talk about the likes of Sam Johnson, the man called Fuyo, the stalwart in defense back then for the Black Stars. You talk about Stephen Apea and all, making it big time. Okay, so Amir Khan and Floyd Mayweather Jr. are set for a $200 million showdown. My goodness. Floyd Mayweather is setting unbeatable records. Remember that his last fight against Saul Canelo Alvarez grossed in total of $150 million US dollars and pay-per-view alone. And that beat a previous record which was set in a previous fight. Which was 135 million US dollars. And now it's the $200 million showdown. He calls himself the money man. He surely is the money man if he's able to if he's able to command such, interesting quotes and such interesting figures. Okay, so Giggs has played 145 games for Manchester United. He's broken the appearance record. And former Nigeria coach Samson Siasia is also advising the Black Stars to wrap up the World Cup playoffs here in Ghana at the Buhari Stadium on October 15. So Ryan Giggs played all of his club football for Manchester United. Isn't that interesting? So Jordan vows to silence critics. I'll bang in the goals. There he does it. Okay. Okay, so there we are. And on the back page, it's interesting that unfortunate incident captured in pictures, but Fernando Torres is not too well. He picked up an injury. And of course, a partnership that looks forward to working, Mesut Ozil and Olivier Giroud, partnering to score one very beautiful goal in the last match day. Of course, Robin van Persie is featured here in the center spread of the 90 Minutes newspaper. So there we are. All right, so let's get into the details of the stories. We will be talking soon. I'm talking with you. That's what I'm talking about. But you can also get on my Facebook page and start pasting your comments there on the stories we will be giving you. Of course, we'll begin with former, one-time most valuable player here in the Ghana Premier League. And he is been talking to Joy Sports about his exploits in DR Congo with TP Mazembe, and of course what has been going on in his club career. So the player has been talking to Joy Sports about, wanting to return to the Ghana Premier League. And of course, he is not the first person to talk along those lines. We remember how Nii Adjei had to go into Northern Africa and had to make a quick return and was advising players not to go there and all of that. Well, what are his reasons? Are his reasons different from what Nii Adjei said some time ago when he was in North Africa? Of course, this time around, this young gentleman plays his football in the central part of Africa. So we'll be taking a listen to him, and you send in your thoughts ahead of time. Remember, we're also doing a very big build-up to the game between Ghana and Egypt. Many reactions coming in, many players are also featuring for their clubs, rounding up the performances for the leagues all over the world to go for a 2-week break ahead of the final round of qualifiers for Brazil 2014. Okay, so let's do another round of commercials, and immediately we get into our first story. Okay, there we are. So we are getting busy with the stories here this morning. Let's take a look at what is also happening in the camp of the Black Stars, like I mentioned to you. We'll talk about one player who featured very prominently for the Black Stars in attack. He is talking about the defense and how wobbly it's looking. Remember that, big names are missing from the squad. John Boy unable to play. Jonathan Mensah also unable to play due to injuries, and this is very, very worrying, according to ex-Ghana forward Yao Preku, who is, currently a coach. So he says that, he has problems with the current development that, 3 key players are missing due to injury. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, it's Jonathan Mensah and John Boy, of course. Harrison Affle's, unavailability is also a very big problem for the Black Stars team. So he says that, well, there are major worries as well in that regard. Okay, so we also go to the camp of Egypt, and they have been forced to abandon a travel plan to travel to Ghana on a private jet. And of course, the Pharaohs coach Bob Bradley has requested to fly his team to Ghana in a private jet to reduce their traveling hours. This request was granted. This request was granted by the Egyptian FA, pending clearance by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. Egypt have now had to alter their traveling plans following the denial by the Ghana authorities to issue them with a direct landing permit in Kumasi, the venue of the match. Now, the Kumasi airport, as explained by the Ghana authorities, not conducive to get to receive, aircraft of a certain size. And a similar thing, happened, ahead of that game against Zambia. And you'd want to wonder if there's going to be a repeat of everything in terms of the sequence of how it happened with Zambia. Every Ghanaian surely would jump at that and say, well, we welcome that. But Egypt wanting to travel here to reduce their, traveling hours in a private jet, but this looks like it's not going to happen, And also, some more stories here we've got for you. Remember that you can join us by text. And like I mentioned to you earlier, Preku is not too happy with the situation in the Black Stars defense. What is your view, and what do you also think? Richard Kingston is back. We've been talking about it all week, and he is making an interesting return to the Black Stars team. Later on, I'll be telling you of that big lead story here on the bulletin, where the man, Daniel Nii Adjei, is relishing a return to the Ghana Premier League. He's playing for a club where he's earning bigger money and all of that. But what's happening? He'll be telling us very, very shortly. All right, we do some more stories here. And the very, very controversial character in Ghana football, the bankroller and owner of King Faisal Football Club, Alhaji Karim Grunsa. He says that the man, Richard Kingston, is rather a disrespectful player. Why is he saying that? Well, he says that he defends the call-up by Coach Kwesi Appiah for the last game. But, Richard Kingston has been very ungrateful, and he said this on Radio XYZ on the morning show with host Mura Udu, that Olele has failed to show him appreciation despite securing a contract for him and 2 other national team players in the past for a move to Turkish club Galatasaray. And Kingston, you know, hasn't said thank you symbolically. Okay, so Richard Kingston. So obviously, it's going to be a very interesting one there. We see how Richard Kingston responds to that. Okay. Interesting things do happen in football, don't they? So the man, Alhaji Grusa, is saying that he is unhappy with Richard Kingston because he has not shown appreciation. So if anybody does anything to you, just make sure you show appreciation, you know, before it becomes a problem. We go to, we remain on stories in Egypt, and we talk about Al Ahly and their players who have begun training in Garoua in preparation for their game against Cotton Sport of Cameroon in the first leg of the CAF Champions League semi-finals. The Ahly crew arrived in Cameroon on Thursday morning in a private jet ahead of the clash against Cotton Sport. Now, the Cameroonian side will host Al Ahly in the first leg of this Champions League semi-finals in Garoua on October 5, and the second leg will be played in Egypt on October 20. Ahly coach Mohamed Youssef will have to make do without injured players Emad Metib and, of course, Amr Gamal. Defender Sharif Abdel Fadil has been called up as he's recovering from a calf injury he sustained during the game against El Dakhleya. Of course, the Red Devils squad also deemed Walid Soliman and Ahmed Fatih fit for the big game. So Egypt, and of course, remember that Ahly is key to delivering in Egypt's senior squad that is going to play the Black Stars team. So there it is. Rather interesting developments there. Now, Sunderland have also invited 4 people from Asante Kotoko's youth team for trials. Okay, so I'm talking about striker Prince Amankwa, midfield trial Sadiq Mohammed, Lukman Kasim, and Abdul Majid, and they will be given 2 weeks to impress the coaches with the Black Cats. The quartet are expected to leave for trials by the end of this month, and this will be accompanied by 3 members of the Asante Kotoko board who will also be holding talks with Sunderland over their 3-year partnership with the Ghanaian champion. So Kumasi Asante Kotoko, you know, they are, you know, growing in that relationship with Sunderland in the English Premier League. We remain in the camp of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, who have retained a sponsorship. They have renewed their shirt sponsorship deal with telecom giants MTN. Now, the renewal comes after MTN's previous 3-year shirt sponsorship deal, which ended in June of 2013. Now, the new deal will see MTN's logo continue to appear at the front of Asante Kotoko's shirts, though the duration of the deal was not announced. The deal was struck by the team's new board of directors, who were appointed in August of 2013, after former executive chairman Dr. Keke Sapong stepped down. No financial terms were available, and that's known with many contracts here in Ghana, where, you know, financial details are kept on the hush-hush. Okay, so also the coach of King Faisal will remain also in the camp of King Faisal of Kumasi, whose head coach Carlos Roberto Paulet is worried about the lack of depth in the final third of his squad. Now, Paulet has hinged his team's poor start to the season on wastefulness up front and insisting that the technical team is fashioning out ways to solve the problem. Paulet blamed his team's inability to grab the 3 points in their midweek game against Ashanti Gold at the Barbara Stadium on poor conversion rates up front. Despite creating many opportunities, Faisal proved very wasteful in the game that saw them outplay their guests. Now, the Peruvian also had no kind words for referee J.A. Amenya, whom he accused of biased officiating. So the issue of biased officiating will always keep coming back. So that's referee Paulet. Okay, so let's get into that major story for today. And I'm talking about Daniel Nii Adjei, who says he relishes a return to the Ghana Premier League. Reasons not very, very clear. Let's take a listen to him, exclusive to Joy Sports.
I would say yes, because Ghana is my home, and then if you are here, you get no problem. You love what you are doing here, and then the people also love you. So when you are playing back home in Ghana, I think it's good. But we are still hoping for the best. So if all things goes well, I'll be there. If all things doesn't go well, then maybe I have to turn back and then come and then pick up some few things here and then maybe try to go outside again. So I'm still hoping, and I know God's time is the best. So I'm not worried. So I'm still hoping for the best.
Okay, so there we are. That's a rather interesting one there. And the man says that, hey, you know something? I'm just biding my time. I may just be returning to the Ghana Premier League, not really seeing his future with the Ghana Premier League. Do you remember Kweku Essien? Well, Kweku Essien also emerged, you know, the best player in the Premier League before it became the Globe Premier League. Then it was being sponsored by One Touch, and he, you know, became the most valuable player. And now he's fizzled out. His name's fizzled out into thin air, not really going ahead with his career. But we're sure that Daniel Nii Adjei will make the right decision so that he stays very, very active, and Ghana is able to benefit from it. Of course, we also look at the Globe Premier League fixtures for today, for the weekend, I beg your pardon. Let's take a look at what to expect in the Ghana Premier League for the weekend. Okay, so before that, all right, apologies for that. So before the Globe Premier League fixtures, let's go to former Black Stars goalie Abubakar Damba. He has been talking about a range of issues, the goalkeeping department and the invitees for the Black Stars team, and, you know, how it's all going to turn up against Egypt. Let's take a look at him. Remember that goalkeeper Damba was in post when Ghana played Algeria in that infamous World Cup qualifier where the pitch was watered and camera lights were flashed at him anytime the ball was emerging towards his goal area. Goalkeeper Abubakar Damba, he was a guest on last night's edition of Sports Night.
I was talking about the functions of the goal, but I didn't want to zero it down on individuals, even though the goalkeeper's trainer will always have to analyze his goalkeepers depending, one, on the technique. And when we talk about technique, it has to do with the skill of playing the game. Then now, the second thing you look at is the insight into the game, which is the most important. And when we talk about the insight into the game, we are here referring to his awareness. Is he able to read the situations on the field of play and control and correct and coach his back four defense accordingly? It's very, very important. But if he's not able to do this, then you need to tell yourself that he's not up to the task yet. He needs to go and come back, or he needs to work harder, or he needs to go and, you know, play elsewhere, but not at the highest level, the Black Stars. So goalkeepers trainers will always have to look up for this, analyze their goalkeepers, and really know whether they are up to the task. We are talking about playing football at the highest level. How is it that they are going to make it better? That is why sometimes the goalkeepers trainers in the national teams also have problems. Why? Because there must be a system, a systematic way of training goalkeepers. If there is this haphazard way of training goalkeepers, they leave their clubs and they come to the national teams, and you need to take them through basic goalkeeping. They are supposed to have attained a particular level in goalkeeping, but after assessing them, you realize that they even lack the basics. And you need to go back and teach them the basics. Positioning. Positioning should be the basics in goalkeeping. But you need to go back as a national goalkeeper, goalkeeper trainer, to train goalkeepers who are invited to the national team basics, positioning. It's frustrating. So sometimes I can always understand, you know, these national goalkeepers trainers, but then what do? You have been selected to do a job, and you can always make a difference. If you have a little bit of time, I believe that 4 or 5 weeks, you can change a goalkeeper and change him. Now let me look at Kwarase. This time I'm going to zero down on Kwarase. Kwarase is a fantastic goalkeeper by all standards. I've watched him closely. I've watched him train. Technically fantastic. But what was the cooperation between the individual Kwarase and the back line of the Black Stars when he was invited into the team? Was he just invited into the team based on his exploits as a goalkeeper in the goalpost, or he was invited into the team with the mindset that this was a goalkeeper who could play in the system of our team? Well, that is a question for the right people to answer.
Sure.
But for me, I think he was invited because they saw him to be a good individual goalkeeper. So when he came into the team, he had a problem, and the problem was quite psychological. The problem was tactical, but not technical. He could control and pass the ball well, but how was he able to play the cooperation between him as an individual and his defense lineup? That was the problems that Kwarase had, and I believe that over the period of time, he's been able to get over this slowly. But how many games have they played together to make sure that this anomaly is corrected? That is also another question. So for me, the game that we played against Japan, while in a way, Kwarase was injured. Yeah, he was injured, so he couldn't have played in that game. But why was the chance given to the younger goalkeeper to play? I believe it was a wrong platform to be given to that young goalkeeper to play. Let us look at the position of the Black Stars so far as the world rankings are concerned. This was a top-notch league game, game between Japan and Ghana. So the goalkeeper was expected to perform at a particular level. The stage was already set for him to perform over a particular level. Was it too fair? For me, I think not. He should have been allowed to go slowly and warm himself up into the team. I believe it was too big for him to contend with. It was a psychological problem, not just because he was not a good goalkeeper. And psychology, my brother, 70% is played of the game psychologically. I don't think this should dampen him, but it should just tell him that he needs to work harder.
Okay, so there we are. You heard from the man himself, a lot of experience gathered playing for the Black Stars as a goalkeeper, and he's been doing analysis on the goalkeeping department. What do you also think? He has described Adam Lassen Kwarase as a very good goalkeeper, also brought out what his faults are, and doing analysis on how we have varied their movements in and out of the Black Stars team. So you send in your thoughts. Get on my Facebook page. Also go through 1760, the short code, and let's get talking. Let's also focus on some more Ghanaian players. Grutherford's Babaraman says he's delighted with the call-up to the Black Stars team, and he feels very honored to have received this invitation from Coach Kwesi Appiah to play. Remember that this is not the first time the player is getting this opportunity. Impressed. He did impress when he was given the opportunity, and he looks forward to doing even more in that game that Ghana will play against Egypt on October 15. Another player who is looking forward to regaining a place is the man Solomon Asante. The diminutive winger is determined to regain his place, and this was after he was snubbed for the 2014 qualifier against Egypt. The player, remember, has got amazing speed, even though he may not be the biggest of players physically. He's got amazing speed with good ball distribution and reflexes as well. Okay, let's continue with some more. A lot of people have been, talking, on the streets about, the challenges in the defense of the Black Stars team ahead of this game. Let's take a listen to what the people are saying on the streets.
I think we should consider John Mensah, the veteran. I mean, or looking at his age, I mean, it would be too superfluous to say we should bring him back. But looking at the situation at hand, this is a dicey situation for us, and it's a very delicate kind of match. So we should put our options open. We should throw our cards open, and so invite all those we know with the much needed experience. And so we should consider the old man. We should bring John Mensah in so that he fills in the gap. at least he can help. He has some vast experience which he can do one or two things with. Yeah.
I think Pencil and Mensah have the experience to replace these people. So if they are available, we should call them to replace. It's like the Brazilian team, they have the old players and the new young ones. So whilst the young ones are there, these old experienced players can, replace and do better.
Well, I think Awal Mohammed and then Rashid Sumara, because those that I know that they can fit into those positions, they are not fit to play, so those guys can do well. Who is an experienced player? Is someone maybe like who has never played in my way? That's what I would say. But those guys have played, and they're also playing outside the country, so I think they know a lot about those things, so they can do well.
Awal and Rashid can be in the central defense because they have played together before in Kotoko, so they can be there. Awal Mohammed have played in the Nations Cup before. Rashid Sumaya has just been recruited to the national team. He has played some few matches for them, so he can play. The moment you know yourself, you can play anywhere they take you. Because the thing is, playing together is better. You see, those you know before, you can put them together, they will play. That's the issue. When you're talking of experience can, but if you don't give anybody the opportunity to play, how can the person gain the experience to play? So they can play together and you can move forward.
I'm interested about the coach calling the senior players to join the junior ones. If you can, for example, if you're in a house and there's no elderly person, you see that there's nothing can go on. So me, I'm interested if the coach called the other players to join the junior ones. I think the improvements will come. There will be improvement changes. Sule Muntari and my case, and I think it will help.
Sule Muntari and John Mensah. At least he has the experience much more than the younger ones who are coming up. And I know he has the confidence to play on the pitch as compared to the younger ones. So I believe he is fit to play alongside the Sule Muntari.
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about defense. One player who's been very, very consistent over the years for the Black Stars is John Paintel. Well, remember that John Paintel from his Israeli club was a free agent for some time, had major difficulties. Remember that he has also had some issues with domestic violence and all of that. Now, the player is getting a new lease of life. And guess where it is? It's at Santos. And, the player experienced the experience right back. He's begun training with the South African club Santos FC. And he's, remember, like I mentioned to you, apologies for that, and remember that we're just talking about the defense, and of course, Yao Preku, he's been mentioning his discomfort with what's happening in the Black Stars defense with major names and faces missing, due to injuries and all of that. And of course, I was also telling you about John Paintel, who is finding, a new home and is finding a new safe place for his career in Santos FC in South Africa. And the 32-year-old player, he also had some trials with English lower tier club Millwall, but failed to secure a permanent deal. So John Paintel finding himself in the South African Premier League. Okay, so we're doing some more stories here, and Egypt, of course, Egypt have a major boost as well, in as much as they're not getting all the Al Ahly players to join the squad for early training. Well, Shikabala, one player, getting himself ready for this big clash. So Coach Bob Bradley would have to just heave a slight sigh of relief ahead of expectation that all the players from Al Ahly will be able to join. Okay, so we do some more, and of course, Coach Maxwell Konedu as well will be going for a workshop for the Chan tournament. Remember that Coach Maxwell Konedu, who's assistant for the Black Stars and substantive for the local Black Stars, is going in to get, going to share ideas and brainstorm together with other coaches in South Africa. And this is for all qualified countries to play in the next edition of the Chan, which is to be staged in South Africa. And remaining on the subject of the Chan tournament, we've got some news on the local organizing committee who say they are ready to host the tournament. Infrastructure-wise, of course, South Africa surely does have it, hosting the last edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, earlier on in the year. And now they have to host the local edition. And, of course, they say that they are ready to go. So everything in place, ready for the kickoff of the Chan tournament, which will be played early next year in South Africa. Of course, before we do another, round of commercials, let's focus on the man, Coach Stephen Keshi. Well, Coach Stephen Keshi, remember how he exchanged a lot of words, engaged in a verbal war with the coach of Malawi, Tom St. Feet, and he called him a white Belgian dude who had to go back to Belgium. And FIFA has warned Coach Stephen Keshi over these comments that he made. And FIFA was very, very stern on that. And Keshi and St. Fed, they became embroiled in a row, and this was because of a qualifier that, Nigeria was supposed to play. And, Coach St. Fed was raising major concerns about the venue of that game. And he didn't want it to be played in the Nigerian city of Calabar. And, of course, this drew these very, very strong words from Coach Stephen Keshi. But, well, as it stands, Coach Stephen Keshi has been warned by FIFA with the expectation that no such behavior will be recorded again. So we'll do a round of commercials, and of course, there is still more on the show. We'll be doing focus on our EPL match of the weekend. Remember, Liverpool are on the rise. Of course, the man Luis Suarez, the baby, or the strong man of the squad, is back. Found his scoring boots as well. So let's see how well they're able to do against Crystal Palace in tomorrow's big feature in the English Premier League right here on this channel. You stay tuned. There we are. So Liverpool Crystal Palace is here on Joy Sports. Of course, Manchester City play Everton. Newcastle go away to Cardiff City. And Fulham, they play Stoke City. And Hull City host Aston Villa, while Manchester United plays Sunderland. Sunderland are looking forward to regaining some amount of form. And Norwich City host Chelsea. Swansea City plays Southampton. And Tottenham play West Ham. And Arsenal play West Bromwich Albion. All right, so let's take a look at the La Liga and what to expect as well. And it's Villarreal playing Granada, Osasuna going away to Malaga. Elche, where the man Richmond Boachiadon plays his football. They play Espanyol. Rayo Vallecano play Real Sociedad. Real Madrid play Levante. And Barcelona play Real Valladolid. Celta Vigo play Atletico Madrid. Sevilla play Almeria. Real Betis play Getafe. And Athletic Bilbao play Valencia. In the Italian Serie A, there's a big game this weekend. And, of course, it's there, last but one there. AC Milan travel over to Juventus. Antonio Conte coming up against Massimiliano Allegri. Who wins this big one? It's Juventus hosting AC Milan. Okay, so before that, there's Chievo Verona, Atalanta. Inter Milan playing AS Roma. Sassuolo playing Parma. Bologna playing Hellas Verona, while Genoa go away to Catania. Napoli play Livorno. Torino play Sampdoria. Cagliari play Udinese. And, of course, Lazio play Fiorentina. So, Juventus versus AC Milan. Remember, it's Kwejua Samuel's Juventus going up against Sule Muntari and Kevin Prince Boateng's AC Milan. Okay, so now we go to the Bundesliga. Hannover 96 play Hertha Berlin. Borussia Dortmund, who surely are on fire, they go over to Mönchengladbach in that big game of wits and nerves. Of course, TSG Hoffenheim play Mainz, and Schalke 04, the team which now has Kevin Prince Boateng. Schalke 04, the team that now has Kevin Prince Boateng, play Augsburg. And Werder Bremen go to VfB Stuttgart. Braunschweig, they play Wolfsburg. And Bayer Leverkusen play Bayern Munich. And, of course, Hamburg SV play Nuremberg. Freiburg play Eintracht Frankfurt. Okay, so Bastia are going to play Lorient in the French Ligue 1. Monaco plays Saint-Etienne. Guingamp plays Stade Rennes. And Ajaccio go over to Lille. Nantes play Evian Tonon Gaillard. Nice play Toulouse. And Valenciennes play Stade de Reims. Lyon play Montpellier. And Bordeaux play Sochaux. Paris Saint-Germain, they play Marseille. That surely is going to be the top liner in the French Ligue 1. There's no doubt. So you saw that point guard from the Braves team. Braves emerges from the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. They are playing in Zone 3, Africa Zone 3, I believe, for the for the African Championship. Let's see if Braves are able to qualify. We'll round it up with fixtures for the local Premier League, where we're expecting some matches on match day 5. So there we are. Bichim United, they face Accra Hearts of Oak. Accra Hearts of Oak making a drastic change in their goalkeeping department. Coach David Duncan says that, Tete Lugard has to impress him. Otherwise, he has to be on the bench. Bichim United welcome Accra Hearts of Oak, and Kotoko go to Inter Allies in Tema at the Tema Park, and I expect that it's going to be full. But, of course, the problem of not having spectator stands for the fans is another major issue. Fans will have to pay money but go and stand to watch the game. Not too pleasant an experience for any football fan. Hazakers welcome Edubiase, and of course Adriana Stars play Brekum Chelsea, an all-Brunga Hafu affair. And of course Hearts of Lions, they host the Dwarfs, while Liberty Professionals play Mediama SC. Ameda's Professionals, they will play Ashanti Gold, and of course King Faisal play Wa All Stars. So those are the fixtures to expect for the weekend in the local Premier League, the Ghana Premier League. So thanks so much for joining us. Remember, the match of the day tomorrow will be Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. Let's follow it. Of course, Kwame Jumajiman and a whole host of seasoned analysts will be here in the studio to discuss the game ahead of time. Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks to the whole production team here at Joy Sports. Monday will be the next stop. Follow George Addo Jr. later on the football show today. And, of course, Tony Bebley will bring you sports review tomorrow. My name is Nathaniel Attoh, and I have love for sport.